What's up, guys? We got some great Assassin's Creed news today. You guys know I don't like doing news videos too much, but this one in particular got my bells whistling, or so they say. So in case you've been living under a rock, there's not going to be an Assassin's Creed game next year. Yep, you heard me right. The once yearly franchise, or at least mostly yearly in the past, is not going to be a yearly franchise anymore. They're actually going to take 2019 off. This is, of course, after they released Odyssey later this year in 2018. You guys might be asking yourself, why are you celebrating this, Tone Loc? This is terrible news. We're not going to get an Assassin's Creed game in 2019. Well, it's actually a good thing for the industry as a whole because we don't like yearly franchises that much on the whole. And the reason for that is that they often rush those games out to meet tight deadlines, hence yearly schedules. So what ends up happening is that we often get the same crap year after year after year, regardless if it's Call of Duty, Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, you name it. Yearly release franchises allow developers and publishers out there to carbon copy last year's template and re-deliver it. Usually they change some stuff up, but the general feel behind the game remains the same, and I think across the world gamers want new experiences, regardless if they don't feel the same as the first game. I think the best sequels out there are games that are reminiscent of games that have come before that, but offer some unique and fresh perspective on the traditional formula. We've seen in the past the many franchises out there don't do that because it's often easier to cash in old assets and then rehaul them to make a new game. It cuts back on development time, it cuts back on cost, and it's just a smarter way to do business if you can kind of disguise the game as a new game in the first place. And most companies do that with pre-release trailers and just basically by feigning ignorance half the time. Other times, game studios are proud to release the same game over and over and over, and people just mop them up no matter what. So the trend lately has been to adopt the yearly release franchise to cash in every year with the same old stuff. Thankfully, the Assassin's Creed franchise has moved away from that, at least in idealism lately, with Assassin's Creed Origins, which completely rehauled the Assassin's Creed template, in my opinion, in an incredibly good way. Assassin's Creed Origins, gosh, what can I say about this game? I love it. It was a RPG-style departure from the once stealth action subgenre that Assassin's Creed kind of popularized back in the day. They switched up a lot of stuff. The combats, how exploration worked, the story, the general feel of the game was completely new and different. And there was customization, progression, itemization beyond anything the franchise had seen before it. It was a nice breath of fresh air for the franchise, and although not everyone liked it, I think most people can understand that it was a good divergence to at least placate some new ideas and new ways to play Assassin's Creed. It's nice to see that Ubisoft, which is one of the biggest culprits of the yearly franchise by the way, steer away from this in 2019, even though Origins and Odyssey only have 1 year in between them by themselves. I think that in itself may be a realization, especially because the games are so similar, so they might want to spend extra time on the next game, which may be in a new design. And the great thing about avoiding a yearly schedule, in this case, and at least in terms of Assassin's Creed, is that it's going to free up Ubisoft and the team that's developing an Assassin's Creed game to either spend an extra year on the next Assassin's Creed game or work on a different game. Maybe Prince of Persia or some of the other intellectual property that Ubisoft has under its belt. So there's a lot of excitement in the air knowing that there's going to be either an extra year for Assassin's Creed or room for more games in Ubisoft's long-standing catalogs. And in my opinion, that's a good thing for gamers. Yes, there's going to be an extended wait for Assassin's Creed, but what could become from that wait may be something more special or something more different, and that's awesome. In terms of why it's good directly to Assassin's Creed is that there are so many gosh darn Assassin's Creed games that it's difficult to play them all, especially when they come out year after year after year back to back. I myself haven't finished every Assassin's Creed game. In fact, I didn't finish Black Flag, I didn't finish some of the DLC for Origins, so it gives me extra time, this 2-year window, to replay all the games I missed and to finish Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is coming up, in the way I want to, which is not rushing through the game, playing all the DLC and getting everything in the game, all the collectibles, achievements, all that kind of cool stuff. So this 2-year window is really a space for people to, at least in some way or fashion, finish up the Assassin's Creed franchise and what they missed before, because there's not a lot of people out there that probably have played to the T back and forth from beginning to end all the Assassin's Creed games, because there's a lot of stuff to play. Especially in the era that is DLC, you know? Assassin's Creed Origins itself had, I think, 2 major for-money DLC packs come out in the space between Assassin's Creed Origins and its follow-up game, Odyssey. And the great thing about this extended window as well is that some of the old Assassin's Creed games are still very playable today and incredibly cheap. If you wanted to go back and experience how the Templar story started, or how some of the origins of Assassin's Creed were born in some of the first games, so it may be really easy in 2019, once you've finished up Odyssey, to go back and replay those old games, because some of them are awesome, especially Assassin's Creed 2. I like Assassin's Creed 3 as well, and Black Flag. Unity was pretty good too, if you can get past all the bugs and stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say is, there's more time now between games, successive games, to go back and replay the games that we maybe missed. The reason it's a good thing is because there's often a problem of continuity between Assassin's Creed games because they're so rushed. As we all know, the backbone and story behind Assassin's Creed does carry through game after game after game, but they do exist in isolation. You know, they're individual games. You don't need to play, for instance, Assassin's Creed Black Flag to understand Assassin's Creed Origins, which probably makes people want to maybe skip over the ones that don't look so appealing. So by having some extra time, not only do people get to replay those old stories that they may have missed, Ubisoft can actually focus on the continuity and bring some more, interconnectivity between the next Assassin's Creed game and what becomes of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And that's what I'm looking forward to probably the most, is to find those connections between games I missed and extend the stories between games that are coming out in the future too. And stop for a moment and imagine what a 2-year plus window means for Ubisoft. I mean, look at what they did with Assassin's Creed Origins in just 1 year. They made an amazing game with 2 incredibly satisfying for-money DLC packs and large support for free. Yeah, they added so many new things, including New Game Plus. They added scaling options for enemies, Trials of the Gods, outfits, sliders for various items in the menu. They added stuff for the arena, and of course the tour guide mode, and all that stuff was completely and utterly free. This is not the norm for single-player games, this act of generosity and extending the support for a game long after it's released. Because honestly, most games see their sales, or at least the majority of them, initially when the game first comes out. So there's really no reason to offer all this support and continued support as the game progresses through, maybe a year after its release. And I think one of the things that people are coming around to as well, one of the good things, is that Ubisoft today is nothing like they were a few years ago. They're becoming a really great publisher that does support games, especially games that are in their multiplayer catalog. I'm looking at you, For Honor, and Rainbow Six Siege. Now they're doing the same with some of their single-player games. Case in point, Assassin's Creed Origins. So having this extended window between games is only going to make that easier for them to do, to support the industry in the way that I think we expect at this point. Not everyone likes the Assassin's Creed franchise, but I do. I just get this special feeling every time I boot up a new Assassin's Creed game. They're just full of such adventure and discovery and stories and history. Love the Assassin's Creed franchise, so I'm in total support of them taking an additional year to pop out maybe a better one. Maybe I'm just all goo-goo-eyed and indeed they just need space for Watch Dogs 3 or Splinter Cell, but I like to think that this window of extension between the next 2 Assassin's Creed games is truly there to make something more special. I think there's a lot of room for improvements in this series. It's done a lot right, but they can definitely tie up some loose ends with the story. They can make the gameplay more compelling. They can flesh out the RPG elements introduced in Origins. So it's not like Assassin's Creed is stagnant in this design, especially because it's brand new. They can do so much more with the franchise. They can go back to Europe, they can go to Japan, maybe go to like a medieval time as well. There's a lot of surprises I feel like that are going to be in store for us in the future of Assassin's Creed, and I'm pretty excited, to be honest. It's not the perfect franchise, and Ubisoft does desperately need some new IP, but I think Assassin's Creed still does have some juice in the tank. I think the growing concern, though, if I can be critical, is that at some point, Assassin's Creed does need to address the bigger issue of, is bigger better? Because every single game does hinge on this idea that if we make things just bigger and bigger and bigger, people will like the game more. And that's not necessarily the case for someone like me who is kind of a quality over quantity kind of guy. I don't necessarily want a bigger game. I want a more developed game, even if it's more compact. Because sometimes more linear style games, or at least ones that aren't blown out of proportion, do feel better in the end because there's an element of storytelling that's easier to weave into games that aren't just all over the place and so big. So pretty excited at this news. Hope you guys enjoyed my talk about Assassin's Creed. Maybe you guys can share as well some of your ideas as maybe why they're doing this, and maybe just share some of your best experiences with Assassin's Creed down below. Have a great day, guys, and we'll see you in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness. Until then, you guys take care.